I'm Pate, for anybody who I haven't met. I'm with the Canadian Association of Elizabeth Fry Societies. I will be speaking later, but it is my great pleasure right now to do two things. One, to honor the Algonquin people, who are the traditional landowners of this occupied territory, and we wish them all the best in their land claim, and thank them for honoring us and allowing us to walk with them on this land. Also, it's my great pleasure to introduce our president, Dr. Ailsa Watkinson, president of the Canadian Association of Elizabeth Fry Societies, and she will chair the proceedings today. I will now pass the mic over to Ailsa, and she will have some opening comments. And I also want to thank everybody for coming today. And please, the agenda is on your place. If you would like to have translation devices, they're at the back of the room, on my right, your left. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Before I get started with my introductory comments, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Carolyn Bennett, Member of Parliament, and invite her to say a few words to us.
It's a great privilege for me to be able to welcome you here to Parliament Hill, which is yours. I think it's the beginning of us understanding this really, really important relationship between what is actually, hopefully, a place where democracy happens and justice gets supervised or leads, follows, all of those things. My first experience with the Elizabeth Fry Society was, I think, when I was 6. And my favorite aunt and favorite person in the whole world was a volunteer at the Elizabeth Fry Society on Maitland Street in Toronto. And I can remember my job was to go down and sort the clothes at 6. And but I do remember when somebody said to me last week, I guess in an interview a little while ago, where Carolyn, did you sort out that you cared about social justice? And I said, I think when I was 6 at the Elizabeth Fry Society, in that I know my aunt volunteered for everything, and the Red Cross and the Toronto General Hospital Auxiliary, and she did just about everything. But I know at the Elizabeth Fry, and that I learned that there are easy charities and tough ones, and that people who actually decide to go and sort out what we do for some of our most vulnerable people with the greatest potential. And I think that it was that day that I thought that whatever I could ever do to understand that there is this whole thing that you will be deliberating today about the cross between actual human rights and social justice, and how we get that right together, and how that I don't think Kim could ever call me that I wouldn't be there, in that I think that people like Elizabeth Fry have taught me, have put me on the path to what we must know is the whole thing about Canadian values. There are some things about women inside, about power differentials, about who could be our most vulnerable, and yet who we should be enabling to realize their full potential as full citizens of this fantastic country. And I guess I just wish you huge good luck in your deliberations today, because there are these little important things that if we could get this right, that a whole bunch of other things fall out around it. That this challenge that you have before you today is extraordinarily important in us getting social justice and human rights in this country to follow suit. So thank you for each of you taking your time today to do this, and whatever I can ever do to help, you let me know. And it is about strong relationships. That being a member of Parliament is sometimes not the easiest thing in the world, but it's only because of the relationships I have in the community and with the Canadians that send me here, that I see you as the experts, I see me as hopefully some sort of catalyst, and that together 2 and 2 makes 5, and we may be able to get this important job done of social justice for Canadians. And
and set the pace for what now is an extremely small planet in the world, and that Canada has this huge responsibility to get it right here first so we can go out and help it happen throughout the planet. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bennett, and I do want to extend our thanks to you as well for making the arrangements for this lovely room and the facility. What I'd like to do now is just give you some background information in regards to this complaint. The complaint actually originated with the Saskatchewan E. Fry Society, of which actually I'm a member, and so is Dawn McBride, our past president. And it was passed on to the CAEFS office in just after Christmas of 2000 on behalf of all the associations of Elizabeth Fry societies across the country. And according to Section 61.2 of the Canadian Human Rights Act, we, being CAEFS at this time, asked the Human Rights Commission to conduct a broad systemic review of the situation facing federally sentenced women and report on the manner in which the Government of Canada is discriminating against federally sentenced women. In our request for an investigation, we were and are alleging that the discrimination is on the basis of sex, race, and disability. Our complaint is challenging a system described by the correctional investigator as, quote, brutal and discriminatory. We requested a systemic review as opposed to the complaint option because, as witnessed by the 1981 group complaint filed by Women for Justice, an individual complaint can become bogged down and the complainants worn out. Such complaints are issue-driven rather than allowing for a thorough systemic review. The presentations that you will hear today are a collected effort which shines a light on the effects of discrimination experienced by women prisoners. Our complaint is supported by a wide range of groups, and I would like to list these groups. They are the National Women's Association of the Native Women's Association of Canada, the Aboriginal Women's Action Network, the Assembly of First Nations, National Association of Friendship Centres, Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations, Strengthened Sisterhood, Disabled Women's Network Canada, National Action Committee on the Status of Women, National Association of Women in the Law, Canadian Association of Sexual Assault Centres, Canadian Research Institute for the Advancement of Women, Canadian Bar Association, and Amnesty International, Justice for Women, Southern Chiefs Organization, the National Anti-Poverty Organization, the National Youth in Care, and the Canadian Bar Association. The members who are... and Women's Legal Education Action Fund. I'm sorry about that, Diana. The members who are present today and who you will be hearing from, I'm going to list your names, and I'm asking you to please stand. And the first group is Strengthened Sisterhood. I'm so afraid I'm going to miss somebody here. I'd like the representatives for the Native Women's Association of Canada to stand, please. The National Organization of Immigrant and Visible Minority Women of Canada. Disabled Women's Network. National Council of Women of Canada, the Canadian Federation of University Women, Amnesty International, Women's Legal Education and Action Fund, the National Association of Women and the Law. Kim, have I missed anybody? I think that's it. And then, of course, CAEFS, and we all know Kim Pate and Dawn McBride, as I've already introduced them, and Trish Montour-Angus. Stand up. We want to thank the Status of Women for sponsoring our application to the Volunteer Sector Initiative for the funding that has allowed us to fund, in part, the research that informs the presentations you're going to hear today. Thank you also to the Canadian Human Rights Commission for conducting their review. In addition, we have received letters of support from a number of other groups. The first one is from the Federation of Community Legal Centres in Victoria, Australia, and I'd just like to read part of their letter. They are saying that they were extremely disappointed not to be with us in person to register their heartfelt support for the human rights complaint that we have initiated in relation to the conditions of women prisoners across our country. And this complaint, she says, is relevant to all women prisoners, no matter in which country they are held, and we thank you for undertaking such an internationally significant action. In Australia, too, women prisoners are experiencing skyrocket increases in numbers. The relentless forced march into prison of Indigenous women, women with mental health issues, and women with drug addictions are the issues that we too face. We also received a letter of support from Sisters Inside. This is a community-based organization that advocates alongside women in prison for the human rights of women in the criminal justice system in Australia. In addition, we have received another letter of support from the West Coast Prison Justice System. In their letter, they say, among other things, that they note that the CSC plans for a new women's penitentiary in British Columbia is to include a new minimum security unit located within the same parameters as the maximum security unit. And obviously are taking umbrage at that. With that, I would like us to begin. I'm just going to stay sitting down from here on in after this formal part, and I will be calling upon Sis to make the first presentation.